All right, so here we go. All right, so just by way of introductions, my name is Greg Mullenholz, and I am the very proud principal at Ashburton Elementary School. I'm entering my 7th year at Ashburton. It's hard to believe. I have all the feels because my very first class of kindergartners are now gearing up to head over to middle school. And so I think it's a milestone for me. It's a milestone for these kids. We're coming to that point in the year where we're now reflecting on this amazing 6 years that we've had, and I promise that you'll have the same amazing 6 years. I'm joined tonight by our wonderful, just absolutely talented and phenomenal assistant principal, Miss Monique Reese. Monique, do you want to take yourself off mute and say hello?
Yes, hello everyone, greetings, and I'm Monique Reese. This is my first year at Ashburton Elementary School as the assistant principal. However, this is my 20th year in education and my 13th year as an administrator. And I'm excited about the upcoming school year and look forward to meeting your children.
All right, thank you, Ms. Reese. Some of the other staff members that you're going to interact with in the next couple of months are going to be Abby Locke, our assistant school administrator, Robin Strauss and Andrea Gillespie, our fantastic school counselors. And you all should get to know Marnie Jacobs here. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself. Marnie is the administrative secretary at the school. She does it all. She's your one-stop shop for any questions that you might need answers to. Marnie lives in the neighborhood. She walks the neighborhood. She knows where the good eating spots are. Marnie is a local treasure. Marnie, do you want to say hello?
Hi, I am Marnie Jacobs. I am the administrative secretary. I've been in Ashburton for a long time. My kids went to Ashburton. I do live over in Wildwood, so it's my community and I love it. And I'm just very pleased to welcome the new families in, the families who've been here before in, and we just want to do everything we can to make your transition to Ashburton fabulous. So we're here most of the summer, so you can contact us if you have questions, and we certainly want to help you get registered. Welcome.
All right, Marnie, thank you for that. And I'm going to ask those of you that are new to Ashburton, if you could help me, all those nights that you see Marnie still working in the building, if you could just kindly remind her that she does have a husband and needs to go home. She is extraordinarily dedicated to us, and we do appreciate that. So Marnie's a heavily involved part of this process. So she's here tonight to help with some reminders and answer some questions. So just really quickly, a little bit about Ashburton. Now, I'm going to admit here that many of the photos I share with you tonight are what we hope it will look like next year when we return to school. MCPS is expecting that we have a 5-day in-person offering for all of our students. You may have heard some questions and information being shared about what MCPS is calling the Virtual Academy. One of the important things you want to do is continue the registration process so that you are getting some of those community updates. So please make sure that you work through that. But what we're going to really talk about is the in-person experience. As I said, MCPS is expecting that it's 5 days a week in person. I can imagine that there will be some changes with the social distancing, the other health and safety guidelines in place. But our hope is that it returns to what we remember Ashburton being on March the 12th, 2020. Ashburton is a fantastic community. It's got a great international population. We have a heavy military presence, both from the United States, from many of the countries around the world, given that we are in proximity to many of the embassies, and they bring along their military attaches. So we just have a really neat, diverse community. We have a heavily involved parent community, and we'll talk specifically about PTA here in a second. And we do a lot of work and partnership with our community. We have a heavy emphasis on wellness. So some of these pictures you'll see, our PTA was instrumental in helping us to take a concrete courtyard and turn it into a functioning agricultural space. We were one of the few schools in Montgomery County that had a fresh salad bar accessible to all of our students. We work with our PTA. There's a health and wellness committee. MCPS has also undertaken a heavy emphasis on health and wellness, both physical and social emotional. And we are proud to be partners in that work as well. So we do believe in well-rounded children, and we look forward to meeting all of yours. We do a lot at Ashburton. We have a lot of fun. And I say a lot because we are the biggest elementary school in MCPS, in population, that is. We have some wonderful new facilities that had just opened before schools closed last year. So technically they have that new classroom smell or that new hallway smell waiting for our kids to return to us fully in the fall. We do have about 60% of our kids back in the building right now. and things are going really, really well with our return to in-person learning. We have a lot of experiences that we provide our kids at a lot of different ages. We have Girls on the Run. We do a lot of work with local charities. We have author visits. We have assemblies. We do have a lot of fun, and we learn in a lot of different ways here at Ashburton. We have the best staff in Montgomery County. It's not that I'm supposed to say that, but I can tell you that I do truly believe that. I have seen the best out of our staff, especially over this last year, as they have basically reinvented the profession of education and made sure that our kids are getting the very best educational experience that they can, be it in an all virtual setting, an in-person setting, or a hybrid of both of those. And so they are looking very forward to coming back to the building, working with your students in the fall. Again, MCPS wants us there 5 days a week, and we would like nothing less. So we have this amazing PTA. They sponsor our international night. They do the traditional fundraising. We have dine outs, a lot of great community events. But one of the things that really sets our PTA apart is their involvement in advocacy. They work very closely with the board, advocating for the needs of all of our students in our community. They make their voices loud and heard at the board, and we are the direct beneficiaries of that. So we have a very involved PTA. I want to highlight that we have our PTA's Spring Fling coming up. And even though you're not fully enrolled yet, it is a public community event, and you are invited. It is virtual this year, but it includes an online auction and raffle. We really encourage you to take a look. If nothing else, it gives you a good idea of what you're getting yourself into here at Ashburton, both with the amazing school community and the PTA that's a big part of that. So again, you are welcome to that. Typically, we would have a lot of outdoor events, some contests and games, prizes, and you would probably see us and hear us on a particular Saturday in May. But this year, obviously, we're going to do it virtually. All right, so one of the challenges is that you're not here physically with us for this part of the process. But I do want to give you a couple of ways that you can start to learn a little bit about who we are here at Ashburton. And one thing I recommend is check us out on Twitter. We do have the main school account. And when you get, by the way, this presentation where it says check us out on Twitter, check us out on YouTube, etc., those are hyperlinks. So you can actually click and it'll take you right to the pages there. But our Twitter account is chock full of all the awesome things that are happening in our classrooms. You'll see some of our teachers posting on Zoom. You'll see some of the parents posting on Zoom. Twitter, around all the great things that are happening in the community. Since March of 2020, we also have a very robust presence on YouTube. We've been using that as a communication vehicle for our students. We've done a lot of taping of our morning announcements, read alouds, other types of videos. As a way for your kids to get to know us, to know some of the characters that wander our hallways, there are plenty of great read alouds, some great stories that you can share with your children that will also introduce them to some of the staff members here at Ashburton. If you really want to get into the weeds, I'm sharing this community messages archive. It's something that's readily available to all of our parents. It's an archive of every community message that has been sent out since the beginning of the school year. It's sortable by content, message content. So if you're at all curious about what's been going on during the reopening of schools, you can search that, look at information. You'll see our weekly messages. They are available in both English and Spanish, if that's a preference of yours. And then I also recommend that you take a look at our Ashburton PTA Facebook page for all the latest and greatest news that our PTA has to offer. So now that I've kind of introduced you to who we are, let's talk about how we're going to make you a part of the community. I'm going to ask you to bear with us because registration can be burdensome. MCPS has undertaken some steps to eliminate some barriers, but do prepare yourself for some paperwork. So just a couple of quick announcements about this. I want to be clear about what to expect with registration. So I'm going to talk you through the online registration procedures tonight. Kindergarten, it's a little bit different. Grades pre-K and grades 1 through 5, it's handled centrally. So I'm going to show you both approaches. You're going to upload documents, or you're going to bring them to us, or we're going to schedule an appointment to meet with you to take care of those documents. Once it's completed, you will hear from Dana Lynch, our attendance secretary, notifying you one of two things. One is that either there's documentation that's missing, or that that you're good to go, and here's your student's ID number. Your student's ID number is your passport to everything in MCPS. It's how you're going to get communications. It's how you're going to register for summer school. It's how you're going to access your child's information through Parent View. It's how you're going to make changes to your child's emergency contacts. So what we're going to walk you through is that really critical piece about how to register. And so before we get any further into the specifics of it, what I'm going to do is ask you to take a quick poll for me. I'm interested in who the audience here tonight is. So if you would, let me know what students you're sending us in the fall. I assume that many of them are going to be kindergartners, but we do know that we have some other families that are joining us, and maybe you're bringing along multiple children. You all are fast with this. This is a good sign. All right, so primarily we're looking at kindergarten, but we have a nice spread of first, second, third, fourth, fifth, middle, and high school. Those of you with middle and high school, when I talk about pre-K and grades 1 through 5, what I share will also apply to middle school registration. So feel free to start that process with your other schools as well. All right, so 92% of you are kindergarten parents. We've got a smattering of first, second, third, fourth, and fifth grade parents as well. All right, now I want to be clear also. I know that online registration may not be the best or most suitable for everyone. There is an option for you to contact us and set up an appointment to come in, and we can help you through the process. There's also an option for us to send you the documents in the mail if that's easier as well. We're going to make this as easy as we possibly can on everyone. You'll hear me a couple times tonight say contact the office and schedule an appointment. That's a very new approach. We tended to have an open door policy and people would just kind of stop by. But with the health and safety protocols in place, we want to make sure that we A, have the time to dedicate to you, and B, that we know you're coming. All right, so let me talk to my new MCPS families first. There is a student information system in Montgomery County that we call MCPS Parent View. And it is your one-stop shop for everything related to your child, their records, registration, courses. This is where your report cards go. This is where the interim grades go. This is where the standardized assessment scores go. It is everything that you will see. I'm actually going to share a view of what it looks like when I look up my own children. I do have a kindergartner and a fourth grader, so a rising first grader and a rising fifth grader. But the first thing you're going to do is you're going to follow the directions that we're going to provide to you, and you're going to create an account. And once you set that account up, then you're going to be able to register your children through the online system. Once you complete that online registration process, you'll be given that student ID number. But the really important thing here is that it's going to ask you for new families. If you select the new family option, and you can follow the QR code at the top corner, you can use the link at the bottom of the presentation. And again, you'll receive that in your email. It's going to ask you 4 questions. If you are a yes to any of those, it actually means that you already have a Parent View account, and you may not know it. If you already have a child with an ID number, you have a Parent View account. If you have a child at a school, middle or high school, or you come from another MCPS school, or your child receives itinerant services for special education, or if they were tested at an MCPS school, they have an ID number. In that case, you can just contact us. We'll try to look it up in the system, and we'll provide you with that letter that you're going to need to set up your account that way. However, if you can answer no to all 4 of those questions, you are in fact brand new, and you can go through the process to set up your account. For our returning parents, and for parents that are new to us but interested in what it looks like, once you get into the Parent View system, and again, those of you that have an account can follow the QR code at the top right of this slide, or you can follow the link at the bottom of the slide. You're going to jump in and you're going to see the picture of your child if we've taken one. You're going to see some drop-down menus about documents and grades. That is my daughter, Lily. I believe that is her 2nd grade photo because I don't think she took photos last year, and we definitely didn't take them this year. You can see all the messages that your child's teacher has been sending back and forth with your child. But I want to point out that you'll be entering that portal using the way, going into it just as you do now, but where that red arrow says online registration, that's what you're going to click. Once you click that, you're only actually going to have 2 options, kindergarten and high school athletics. So right now, the only parents that are able to register for kindergarten are going to be the ones that are able to register through the online system this way are our kindergarten parents. I'm going to show you how to do it for grades pre-K 1 through 5 and our middle and high school friends here in a second. All of the information that we share with you tonight is contained in this wonderful kindergarten parent handbook. And normally we would have a number of copies that we would provide to you, hard copies. We'd hand a copy to you at the kindergarten orientation. But as I said, we are in different times and we are not able to do so. However, you can access this online. It's hyperlinked in that first bullet, or if you really want a copy of it, contact the school and we can have one set aside for you to come pick up. Everything is available on the MCPS website. But again, if you prefer hard copy, we're going to make that work. It's going to walk through all of the forms, and there are many, and I'll talk about them in a second. Some of you tonight are here because you're interested in what's called early entrance for kindergarten. Maryland state law says that if a child turns 5 prior to September the 1st of the year that school starts, that they are what's called age appropriate, age eligible for kindergarten. However, the state of Maryland also requires us to have an early entrance to kindergarten process for those children whose birthdays are between September 1st and October 15th. If your child is born on October 16th, they are not eligible for early entrance to kindergarten. If they are born in December, they are not eligible for early entrance to kindergarten. In a typical year, as a part of that orientation process, we would do the early entrance to kindergarten assessment with your child, which looks at both academic, social, emotional, and other skills. We are waiting on information from MCPS about what that will look like. You are actually not able to fully register at this point. So we're saying to you, make sure that you stay in touch with our front office staff. But do make sure that you send us that paperwork because that helps us get you through the process. And once they open that window for early entrance to kindergarten, we want to make sure that you are ready to go. Before I jump into it any further, Ms. Jacobs, do you want to jump in and share anything about anything I've mentioned here?
I think you've probably covered it all. We have had a few people ask questions about whether they, and I know we'll talk about the questions at the end about whether they have an older child or a child who's already, like some people who were in kindergarten and then went private or something else this fall. I don't think they can go in and register online themselves at this point, but if they upload their information, we'll get them set for next year.
Yeah, that's actually a good reminder. And I think that the overall message here is if you run into any hiccups, just reach out to us. We're well trained. And I think if anybody's here that went through the registration process last year, when they first rolled this new system out, we've come a long way. But we're here to help. Just reach out, call the main office, email Ms. Jacobs, Ms. Lynch. Again, their emails were on the very first slide. And again, you'll be provided that at the conclusion of this meeting. So here's where I want to step aside from kindergarten. If you've got children in other grade levels, MCPS has what they call an online registration survey. Essentially what it does is you click on the survey, and I've got a slight screenshot of it to the right. If you're registering your child for the current school year, now it says K to 12, but if you actually go to the link, it tells you use the new online kindergarten process for kindergarten. This is for all other grades. But it's going to recommend, registration for the current school year, for the next school year, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to go ahead and just click that through. It's going to ask for some very basic information. It is a self-paced. It's available in multiple languages, and it's going to guide you through that process. So again, you're going to use that registration survey link. The school is then notified that you are intending to enroll, and we contact you and request any further information and then actually handle the registration process on your behalf at that point. So again, kindergarten parents, you're going through the online parent view system. All other parents are using the online MCPS registration survey. All right, so I do, as I said at the top of this meeting, do be prepared for a lot of paperwork. When we had our traditional kindergarten orientation, your kids had all the fun in the world. And you were in a room where you went from one table to the next, either giving us paperwork or getting more paperwork to fill out. I want to kind of separate the paperwork into two categories. There's the enrollment forms and there's the health records. The most critical thing you can do for us right now is handle the enrollment form side of it. The health records just need to be done by the time school starts. So we don't have as much of a rush on that. But in order to register, when you go through that online portal, you're going to include, you're going to fill out the new student information card. You're going to handle the emergency information, and much of this is handled through the online system. What you're going to need to prepare, though, is to upload or provide us copies of some documents. One, Proof of residence. We need to know that you live in the Ashburton boundary, that you live in Montgomery County, that you have a main address, a main residence that you're using where your family lives, where your child sleeps at night. So we need to know you own the house. We also need to know that you own the child. So we're going to need some proof of birth information, a birth certificate, passport, something that connects you to the child to make sure that we have the legal right to enroll your child. That's going to be that parent ID piece. So again, any questions we have about that, we're going to walk through that. This is pretty standard, but those are the three main pieces of data that you'll need. Proof of residence can either be the copy of the lease, it can be the deed, the title, it can be a tax bill. If you are in a shared housing situation, meaning you don't own the house, but you live with someone who does own the house, you and the property owner would fill out a form, and then it has to be notarized. They basically state that that is your primary residence. What I would say is if you have any questions about residency and documents, you can contact Ms. Lynch or Ms. Jacobs, and they'll walk you through the process. And then there's that second piece of it, the health records. Again, please don't worry about the health records. I know it can be difficult sometimes to get that information from the doctors, given how busy they are and the protocols that are in place. But those health records are really going to be critical as we approach the school year, and you will get plenty of reminders from us about that. All right, so if you are successful, and you will be successful in navigating the registration procedure, your golden ticket coming out of the other end is that student ID number. Now, many of our families this year were the first that had the 8-digit ID number. Normally, I'd refer to it as your 6-digit ID. Marnie, are we doing any more 6-digit IDs, or is it now all 8?
It is all 8, the new ones. And
All
somebody just posted a question. If you were enrolled last year, or you have had child in Head Start or PEP, your child already has an ID number. You just need to do the new student enrollment form and resubmit your proof of residence. You don't need to submit everything else over again. You don't need the birth certificate and all that kind of stuff, but it does not know for sure that you're coming to us unless you say so.
right. So now that you've gotten that student ID, we're going to talk about summer school. MCPS is providing free, no cost, transportations and meals included and available. Summer school for all students entering MCPS schools for the fall. It's a part of their 2.5-year recovery plan around mitigating some of the disruption to learning that was caused by COVID-19. So in a traditional year, we've had some programs, mostly some self-paced learning modules that our kindergartners could do, but they're actually going to be offered the same type of summer school that all of our students across the county are going to be offered. So just some quick notes, and then I'm actually going to ask Ms. Reese to jump in and fill in any information about summer school. There will be an all virtual and an in-person option for students. You cannot choose both. You can't have a hybrid where it's part day in person and part day virtual, but you're going to choose either the all virtual or the in-person option. In-person programming will happen at Ashburton from July 6th to July 30th at no cost to your students. Again, you'll need that student ID number to register. So if you really want your kid to come to summer school, registration does open on May 3rd. So that's next week. You don't rush, don't stress out about getting that ID number by next week. Registration will be ongoing and we will work with you. But it is actually available to our rising kindergartners, which is great. A typical day will include work in math literacy. For our rising kindergarten students, it's going to be in foundational phonics and reading skills. There'll be mathematics. There will be some electives. Students will be provided lunch, or they can bring their own. And if they qualify for transportation, meaning they live outside of a certain distance from the school, they will have the transportation available to them. It's about a 4.5-hour day. So we're approximating about the student day running about 9 to 1:30. Is that right, Ms. Reese?
Sorry. Yes, depending on which tier we're in, we're either 9 to 1:30 or 9:30 to 2 o'clock for the student day. And yes, they'll have math literacy, electives, lunch, maybe some recess time as well during the day.
Okay. Anything else? You are the expert on the summer school here. Ms. Reese has done a phenomenal job getting this program up and off the ground. So anything you want to add here?
No, I think you hit everything. Registration begins next week and it's going to be a Google form that's going to be live next Monday. The parents can register through that as long as they have the student ID number.
Okay. And Ms. Reese will be your go-to for any questions related to summer school programming. So feel free to reach out to her.
And we do have a question about EEK going to summer school, and I don't think we know the answer to that one yet.
So my assumption would be that if they are enrolled as a kindergartner because they have gone through the EEK process, they have to have gone through that process, identified as a rising kindergartner, and then it would be available to them. But to Ms. Jacobs' point, that's really going to depend upon the timeline that is out there for that EEK process. So we will be in touch with those families if they are impacted by that. All right. So the other thing is once that student ID is generated, beginning July 1, you are entered into the system as a rising kindergartner. If your child's at another grade level, they're also entered into that grade level. But what that means is you get both the automated messages from the system as well as any communications from the school that go to particular families or to particular grade levels. We will, throughout the course of the summer, be providing some really interesting opportunities to our kids. We've never done this before, so we're going to be really creative and innovative here. One thing that I'd like to do is do meetings with small groups of our rising kindergartners. I'm talking, 6, 8, maybe max 10 at a time, to meet them, to meet some of the, so that they can meet some of the staff, so that we can start building those relationships over the summer. We want to make sure the kids feel comfortable coming to kindergarten. If we're able to have any type of in-person event on campus over the summer, we will absolutely be doing that. But we have to make sure that we are in compliance with those health and safety guidelines. I mentioned at the top of this meeting that we will, MCPS is looking at a strong likelihood that we'll be providing a kindergarten orientation experience sometime in August leading up to the school year. So you'll get more information about that. And again, my assumption would be that that is an in-person offering. We will talk to you about that. But again, the key here is, and the key takeaway from tonight's meeting is that you must be registered to access any of those offerings. So that was a lot. Again, the focus was on really the registration in the summer school. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw them into the chat, and we will pull them out and try to answer as many of them as we possibly can. Ms. Reese, Ms. Jacobs, I think we can tackle this together. If you guys see any questions, go ahead and jump in there. Great question about health forms for summer school. We will be in touch with you if that is something that you need, but you really only need to submit the health forms once. So we'll talk you through that process. That's a great question, and we will get an answer to that. Kelly McCarthy asks, they're moving to Maryland in June, so welcome. Their son's coming to second grade at Ashburton. Do you create a parent account first? The answer is yes, you do. You can do that remotely. So whether you're in Maryland or not, what you will have to do though is you'll still have to provide the residency information that shows that your primary residence is here in Maryland, in Montgomery County, in the Ashburton boundary. That can be done from afar, and Marnie and Dana can assist you with that. Great question. So if you already have a student ID number and you need the activation code for Parent View, simply call the office. We will PDF the letter for you. It's got a unique code for every parent, and we will send that to you via email. That is your ticket into activating your Parent View account.
The only ones we can't help on that is if your child is in Pepper Head Start, that activation code would come from that school, not from us.
If your child, and to Marnie's point as well, if your child attended any previous school, I see there's a question about a student who's attended Bethesda Elementary. If your child was in MCPS, they should have an ID number. What you'll do is you'll contact the last school that your child was at, and they should be able to furnish you with that ID number. If they're not able to and you get stuck, reach out to us and we'll see what we can do to assist. Class sizes, let me talk about both the school year, pre-COVID, let me talk about summer school, and then let me also talk about what we might be expecting in the fall. Previously, the Board of Education was recommending a student to teacher ratio of about 24 students for every teacher in kindergarten. But please know that we have plenty of other adults that support our kindergarten students throughout the course of the day. Obviously with the health and safety restrictions in COVID, our current classroom size is anywhere between, we've got classrooms as small as 8 up to as big as 18, and that all depends upon the number of students that will fit into a room comfortably and safely and are 6 feet apart. Now, I know that the CDC has changed some of the guidelines. There was even some changes that were made today. Each time that happens, Montgomery County responds, makes some adjustments. Then they go back with the school system who makes some, they respond, make some adjustments. So what we'll say is that in the fall, whatever the guidance is from the Montgomery County Public School System around class size, occupancy, and social distancing, that's what we'll go with. However, for summer school, we know right now that we're operating on about the same ratio that we are now, about 12 to 15 students in a class is the average. Is that right, Ms. Reese?
Yes, 12 to 15 per class.
Okay. Let me see here. A couple of questions about specific documents that you can use. Yes, bills that tie you to the residence that you're using as your established primary residence. Bank accounts. Marnie, what are some examples? Gas bills, cable bills?
So we actually want bills that show that you both pay the bill and that you live there. So they want a gas bill or electric bill as opposed to a cell phone bill.
Oh.
And there was a question about due dates. As Greg said, the sooner the better. You obviously need some time to collect the documents, but the sooner we know your child is coming to Ashburton, whether it's to get an ID for summer school or not, the sooner we know that we're expecting to have however many children we're having and however many teachers we're having.
All right. A couple of questions about what the typical day looks like. Again, I'll speak to what it looks like or looked like back in March and what we hope it looks like come this September, obviously with some changes. But our students engage, it's a full day program. Our students do a lot of work in literacy, mathematics, science, social studies, health and wellness. Our students have access to art, music, and PE. They have about 70, 75 minutes of lunch and recess per day. And they can, I see some questions about the bus. They do ride the bus to and from school if that's something that they need. They can also walk to school, ride their bikes to school. They can be driven by a parent to school as well. One of the, we're still, there's some questions about 3 foot, 6 foot. We just don't have the answers to that quite yet. And that's why as we go through the course of the summer, as those decisions are made, they'll be shared publicly with the entire community. And then we'll talk about specifics on what that looks like at Ashburton. Let me see there. We'll just have to wait and see what the social distancing guidelines look like at the school. I will say that we do have an aftercare program. Rockville Daycare is the on-site provider. We also have several in the area that do provide daycare as well. And I do know that at this point, there are some spaces available with Rockville Daycare. So what we can do, and I'll work with Ms. Jacobs, is we can give you that information in the same email. If you're interested in either the before and after care or full day care options for the summer and or the before and after day care programs in the fall, you can contact them about space availability. Let me see this. So you will be getting the link to the parent view if you're branded MCPS, the process to go through and create that. It's also embedded in the presentation. There's a QR code, there's a link, but we're also going to pull that out and put it in the body of the email as well. So you will definitely get that. I see some questions about EEC. You don't have to choose specifically between driving and walking. We ran into some interesting transportation needs in the community when we return to in-person here. But if you drive one day or walk one day, we'll talk all about this as we orient you to the kindergarten experience as we approach the fall. But you'll contact both the main office and your child's teacher to let them know that you're changing the dismissal procedure. Some of our kids walk home, but if it's raining, the parent may opt to pick them up. Or they do something special with them in the afternoon, or they go visit a relative and they change their dismissal. Please know we will walk you through all of that fun stuff as the school year approaches. We will give you many a lot of information, I should say, about that. Let's see this. So question about what we've been calling it is the mitigating the disruption to learning. So MCPS understands, this is Matthew Gamard, and I apologize if I mispronounced the name, asking the question. It's something that we are preparing for, that we are prepared for, but we also know that there's something unique about kindergarten in that our kids come from all different places and spaces as they enter kindergarten. We have a phenomenal kindergarten team. Our teachers are the best in the county, and we work with the students as they come in at their particular level with their particular needs, and then provide them the instruction that matches that. So please do know that. Obviously, this is not something that's going to be a surprise to us, so we'll see that. I don't know that I'm expecting this year's kindergarten class to be either smaller or larger. I think it's going to be an interesting process to see through because, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic has changed things when it comes to enrolling in school. We know that we saw some loss of enrollment because of COVID-19 through the course of this year, although I don't think we saw it as acutely as some other schools did. But we are already seeing healthy numbers. And let me be very clear that the number of students that enter our building doesn't change the class size guideline. So if it's 24-1, it's 24-1. And the more students that enroll and the healthier our enrollment gets, the more teachers that I have the opportunity to hire. And that's one of the reasons we're holding this meeting tonight. And it's early, it's not even May yet, but we want to make sure that we're working with you on this process so that we are ready to go with the teachers also ready to go. Some of you I know in the audience have also experienced where we've started the year with 6 teachers and the enrollments came in late. We split off into a 7th class. That happens sometimes at the younger grades because many of our parents aren't quite used to enrolling in public school quite yet. So that's why we're here to help you. So I do want to address Kelly McCarthy's question because the community is going to be getting an update from me regarding the interest survey that was sent to parents. And those of you that are brand new, we're going to send you the link to this survey as well in the body of the email following this meeting. MCPS put out an interest survey. It's non-binding to find out if parents were interested in sending their students back in the fall for an in-person experience or for what they're calling the virtual academy. There will be an application process for that virtual academy. More information will come, but it will be open to all elementary students, including pre-K. We are going to send you that information. One of the misleading things about that survey, and as a parent, it was a little misleading to me, but I always open it up anyway, just to see what it looks like, is that it almost indicated that it was only if you were interested in the virtual piece. The interest survey is actually asking you to select if you're interested in the in-person piece as well. So we'll send you that link. Again, it's a non-binding survey. So we'll make sure that you have access to that as well. A couple of questions about materials and Chromebooks. Please know that we will handle all of that in the fall when your students come in. The Virtual Academy will have its own set of procedures. It will be an entirely separate school and program. The Virtual Academy is not the hybrid type of learning that we're experiencing right now in our classrooms. If your child comes to the building in person, their teacher is in person. They're only working with the students that are in person. If you do opt and are selected for that Virtual Academy, your child's learning will be virtual and it will be with teachers that are working remotely. So I do want to be clear about that because I think that there's a misnomer about that. Again, Chromebooks for summer school, if you're doing the all virtual option, you're going to wait for information from MCPS about that. In reality, they may decide to send you to me anyway, and then we'll make sure that we have Chromebooks ready for you. But if it's an in-person experience, it's an in-person experience. So there won't be a need for the Chromebooks as there would be for the all virtual setting. And I know that the question that some of you might be asking is, what do I do with that Chromebook that I currently have? Mr. Mullenhouse has no information on any type of return quite yet for those Chromebooks. I would say the best thing you can do is just hang on to it. And we'll see what happens after that. All right. So it looks like some of the other questions that are popping up are relevant to the online registration process. All of that information is in this presentation. You'll have access to the recording. You'll have access to the forms. They're all available online. If you want a hard copy of those forms, just contact the school and we can make them available.
Hard copy of this, just contact the school.
Yes, you can contact the school and we can provide any of it to you in hard copy. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So I mentioned earlier that the ratio of students to teachers is about 24-1. And but I mentioned that there's a lot of other folks that support our classrooms throughout the course of the day. Some of them are para-educators, or what you might be referring to as teachers assistants. We have ESOL teachers, special education teachers. We have reading initiative teachers that are in our classrooms constantly. And I will say that we tend to prioritize those supports and services in kindergarten, especially early in the year, as we help get our kids acclimated to the daily routines in kindergarten. We'll talk all about all those specifics about what kindergarten is going to look like next year. We'll provide plenty of time for you all to answer questions. And as I shared, we're going to be very creative through the course of the summer about holding parent meetings. I'm looking forward to meeting your students, be it virtually or in person, in smaller groups, so that I can start to build those relationships with them. And one of the really interesting things that came out of the closure of schools since last March is that many of our students, our current kindergartners, and even many of our current grades 1 through 5 students, they hadn't ever met us before. And they had seen us on Zoom, and we'd connected with them in some ways. But for whatever reason, they knew us from a lot of the videos that we produced, the read aloud videos, the fun sing-along videos, the counselor and I doing the hot sauce challenge. And that's a fun one if you're looking for a night of entertainment there. So I really do encourage you to check us out on Twitter, YouTube, the Facebook page, everything there, just to kind of start getting your kids acclimated and get a feel for what that would look like. All of the forms, I mentioned this a couple of times, are going to be available online. They're hyperlinked in the presentation. They're going to be electronically available in that student handbook. We can give them to you in a hard copy. We can mail them to you. And that's going to go for kindergarten and any other grade. So if you need those forms, either complete the kindergarten online process, or you can go through that online registration survey.
So it sounds like we'll send out an email to the parents that we have emails for tomorrow once we've had a chance to add everything into it, since I'm at home and Greg's still at school. We also traditionally, we don't have a plan yet, but we traditionally have some kind of open house for new students who aren't kindergarten.
Yes.
So they can get to know the school and the teachers too. So we'll hope to be able to do that. So if your kids coming into 2nd grade, they're not walking in the door and trying to navigate without ever having been there.
Yes, I can promise you that will also be the case. We've even had to do that in a virtual setting too. So, all right. So it looks like the questions are winding down. So what we're going to do, as I said, is we're going to send you an email tomorrow that's going to include this presentation, the link to the recording. It's going to include the direct links to the documents that we've talked about tonight. And we're going to, one of the things we're also going to include is that survey that one of the parents rightfully called out there, to make sure that if you are a rising kindergarten parent or you're new to Ashburton, that you're giving the county a little bit of information about whether you're looking at the in-person option or the virtual option. It's also important to understand that the Virtual Academy is an application program. So it's not you're choosing one or the other, but you do want to express a preference, depending upon what you're looking for. So I do want to say thank you for coming out tonight. It was great to meet all of you. I also want to say thank you to Ms. Jacobs, Ms. Reese for being here tonight. I see some of our friends are joining us on camera, and I'm so sorry we did all the boring stuff tonight for your parents, but trust me, we got that out of the way. We're going to have a lot of good fun over the summer as we welcome you all to kindergarten. I see some of our friends there. So thank you all for coming out tonight. We are readily available to answer questions. Or if there's anything else we can do, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are here to help. We are here to welcome you. And we're really excited to be doing so. So thank you all, and look for this email to come with all the information tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody.
If anybody has not gotten an email from me to tell you the link to this, you can email me tonight or tomorrow, and then we'll add you to our email list to email you this information.
All right, everyone, have a great evening.